Yeah, so good point, Dan. I mean, if older parent or something coming in and they're in wheelchairs and my house isn't ready for it, what can you do in terms of making it, I guess we'll call it handicap accessible?
Yeah,
but we're kind of talking about wheelchairs up and down.
Right. Sooner or later, we're going to have to move one or both of our parents in and to help out with things, and that's always a good thing to do. And it doesn't have to be that expensive. It can actually be a fairly simple procedure. I've gone into people's houses where I did temporary walls.
Okay.
Literally screwing the walls together, screwing the drywall on, doing more temporary work, but we made good finished rooms. They looked like everything else. And now you had an old living room that you never even used, or part of a family room that you never really used, and you blocked it off, and you have good access to a bathroom. You make sure that everything is wheelchair accessible.
Now that means, does that always mean wider doorways? Does that tend in older houses anywhere? They're not.
A lot of older houses, yeah. You'll have sometimes you have a 2-foot wide door, a 30-inch wide door. You need a 3-foot.
Is that a pretty common thing that you have
That's
to
a
take care
common
of?
thing.
Yeah.
So we'll cut in a 3-foot door to a bathroom.
All right.
And if that's all you have to do, you're lucky. Sometimes it'll be better for us to go piggyback off an existing bathroom that's all cut up and complicated.
Okay.
And we'll put in just a nice, neat, easy walk-in shower, toilet, pedestal sink, so that's easy, so it's all ADA compliant, so that somebody can get in a wheelchair and spin around and do everything they need to do and get in and out of a shower.
No, that's right. You got to be thinking about the room even just to move around within.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. So I work with architects all the time. I know what ADA compliant is, and it makes a big difference for people who are getting older. They're not in a wheelchair yet. They're not handicapped yet. We've done projects for people that could just work, walk, and talk just fine, but they knew it was coming and they got ready.
You know, it's funny, obviously getting in the house and having a ramp is one thing. And I'll be honest, I've seen some houses where you tell, holy cow. I mean, I've seen ramps that are like out in the front yard doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Are there options? Or that, depending on what somebody wants, like, I want a ramp, but can it be...
Well, I mean, when you have to build a ramp and you have to make it exactly OSHA compliant, I mean, they do those for a reason.
Okay.
I mean, you don't want to be wheeling someone up a ramp in a wheelchair and then they get away from you because it's too steep.
Okay.
And then
so there are regulations of the angle that you must...
So they do have regulations,
Okay.
but there's a lot of options out there. One of my favorite options is actually a small lift. So it'll be common for people that want a ramp to get in and out of the front door of a house, and you would have such a maze of back and forth on a ramp that it really doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah.
And all you would have to do realistically is have one small lift from where someone would get out of a handicap van, accessible van, to the side of the driveway. You have a little section of concrete, comes up to a house, has a lift coming up to an existing deck, just a tiny little ramp onto it.
That's nice.
And that's it. So if you know what you're doing, you're not, there's a lot of people that don't know, so they're going to call a contractor up to get the right answers on the best possible and have the best possible options.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of contractors out there that don't know all the options. You need to know all the options. You need to contact the right people so that you can get exactly what you need.
And I know you talk a lot about taking a lot of time to listen to people, and that's kind of obviously there's a function to this thing, but there's also some aesthetics, and I guess it's understanding for any one particular person.
Yes.
Where's the priority and
listening is the number one priority.
Hey, let me ask you, and I'm looking at my notes here, the temporary accommodation. So what's an example of something that's temporary, and what's the value of it being temporary? Is that when the parent moves back out of the house, that somebody wants their house to go back to?
Well, we've had that happen where I had my mother move into a room, and then she stayed for a couple of years, and then she moved over to my sister's house because that was even easier for her, and she had more full-time care there. So what you could easily do is come into an area and you know that you're only going to need a couple of walls up for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay. And
then you know that when a person's done living there, you take the walls back apart. You don't have to cut any of the carpeting.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything to the walls of the wallpaper. You can screw things together. You can unscrew it, when you demolish it and take it all apart, it's very clean.
So that's nice.
So that in the end, you just patch a few little tiny holes in the wall, a little bit of paint, a little bit of cleanup, and boom, everything's gone back to normal, and the house is back.
Very nice. Okay.
Yep.
Good to know. Hey, if somebody's watching this right now, Dan, and they have maybe an older, parent that's going to come in, what's the next best step they should take?
Give me a call.
And you'll have your ears open.
And I'll have my ears open.
He listens a lot. So.
Absolutely. I mean, there's all the smallest details are usually pretty big.
Okay. Thanks for watching.